Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking a little bit more about this primary arms 1 to 10 by 24 GLX scope first focal plane. Okay, so I've already done a couple of videos on this. So this scope, which ended up costing about $750 with discounts and taxes, right? Came out to about $750. Was originally going to go on this Ruger MPR here, right? And I've done many videos on this. This is a great rifle. I love it. This Ruger MPR is the gun that I hit the half-inch groups the most often with. The half-inch groups at 100 yards, the most often with. Okay? So this, it ended up going on this Palmetto 223 Wild. This one also gets half-inch groups at 100 yards, but not as often as the other rifle. So why did I end up going on this Palmetto 223? So this so here's the thing. I actually had mounted that scope on this gun over here, and originally when I mounted it, I used this primary arms mount. That's all I had at the time, and it was just like heavy. I mean, obviously I could still lift it, but it was not nimble at all. Okay. So the first issue was the mount, right? This primary arms mount weighs 6.9 ounces. Okay, so this is heavy. So I got rid of this. I took that off, and I got the Aerial Precision one. Right, and I've done videos on Aerial Precision. These are great mounts. They're very light. This one comes in at 3.4 ounces, so it's like almost half the weight. So I put that on, so I put that scope, right, that 1 to 10 with the Aerial Precision mount on here, and it was a lot better, but it was still like a little sluggish, like when you're picking it up and you're going, like obviously right now there's nothing on it. The Palmetto felt just a little bit more nimble, and the issue is that the Ruger MPR has Picatinny rail all the way across the top, so that adds extra weight. So the Palmetto, it's a hybrid rail, okay? So it's got Picatinny up here, Picatinny over here, and this over here is M-LOK. So that is lighter, and that made the difference. I mean, that was the difference between being just a little bit sluggish, and I actually weighed the two rifles without anything on it. The Ruger MPR comes in at 6 pounds, 15.1 ounces. The Palmetto 223 Wild comes in at 6 pounds, 10.7 ounces. So we're talking around roughly something like 5 ounces. So there's roughly 5 ounces of difference on the rifle without anything on it. But the issue is that a good chunk of this weight is out here, all the way out here, where you feel it the most. Now, the scope that was on this gun before was this a primary arms 1 to 8 PLX. Okay, so this is like a super light LPVO, right? And it's not until today that I truly appreciated the lightness of this PLX, because this thing weighs like, I think it weighs something like almost like 16.9 ounces. 16.95 ounces, okay, and then coupled with the Aerial Precision 3.4 ounce mount, this is a very light, nimble rifle. Okay, so now this I ended up putting it on this 16-inch Palmetto, and on the 16-inch Palmetto, right, man, it feels almost like just a gun like this. Now this is a Radical with just the Holosun 510C, so they're pretty close. And when I weighed it, the Radical with the optic comes in at 7 pounds 7.5 ounces. Okay, whereas the Palmetto with the PLX scope comes in at like 7 pounds 14.9 ounces. So it's like almost like 7 extra ounces for an LPVO versus a red dot. And both of these are 16-inch barrels. So yeah, I mean, today I've really come to appreciate the lightness of the PLX. Okay. Now the other thing that comparing the PLX to the GLX, in one power, because in the past, like, I've kind of compared them at distance, and generally, like, if at distance, magnification beats like more expensive glass. That's what I have found. Okay, at distance. So that's why I wanted to get that 1:10 GLX over here, right? That's why I got that one. But at like CQB distance, like up here close, yeah, you know what? This PLX, like, as you're moving back and forth between targets, particularly if you put it on your off side, right, on my left side, and you're moving, there is like zero distortion. Okay, with the PLX. With the GLX, okay, and you're in one power, right? When I'm on my strong side, I don't see the distortion that much. On my weak side, my left side, it's you gotta look for it. I noticed it like on the targets over there. So when I shift onto it and I'm coming off it and on it, there's just a tiny, like, it's almost, I mean, we're talking about a slight difference, right? Like, if you just come up on target, if you're not looking for it, you're not going to see the distortion. But yeah, in 1X, there is a difference with when you go from the GLX up to the PLX. And we're talking about, like, a $750 scope versus a $1,500 scope, right? Or they list it for $800. So $800 scope versus a $1,500. In 1X, you're going to see a little bit of a distortion. There's a little bit of extra weight here. Now, in the past with the Ruger MPR, right, the scope that was on here was the PLX, which is lighter. So when I had the lighter scope on here, right, this Ruger MPR, it felt pretty nimble, okay? But because I had the lighter scope, where like scope and mount was like 1 pound 3 ounces or something, 1 pound 4 ounces. When I put the 1:10 on here, which is just a little bit heavier, you know what? It just pushed it over the edge where it's like I'm starting to feel it a little bit. So that's just interesting. So I'm not sure what I'm going to put on this Ruger MPR. Now I'm thinking of leaving this PLX on the 6-inch rifle for a while, and I want to just work with it because this is nice. Now, what interesting thing is these primary arm scopes, they got like a lot of eye relief. So a lot of times you actually got to extend the stock a little bit more to get the. Okay, now with this one over here, yeah, it's actually right there. But if you notice over here, this is like all the way up here, like as far up as it can go without going on a handguard. So yeah, you definitely need that the extended thing here. So where you definitely like start seeing differences when you stand here and do unconventional shooting, like twist around, okay, come back around this way. All right. That's when you really start seeing the difference. Like the difference of these scopes, right? The lightness, being able to switch to your off eye with the PLX. I'm testing it out now. I've been testing it out today here with the GLX, right? So this is the 1:10 by 24. So same exercise, facing that way. Not, basically just turning my upper body. Come around. My feet really aren't moving. Go back around this way. Twist around that way. So with the GLX, when I come around to my left side and I get myself into position, yeah, there's a little bit more effort to get my eye in the right position. And of course, it's in 1X, so there's a little bit more effort there. So yeah, when you do exercises like that, you start seeing the difference between the GLX and the PLX. But yeah, I mean, I needed this for distance. That's why this went on this is an 18-inch barrel, right? 223 well, 18-inch barrel. With this one, basically, I want to be able to get out to 600-700 yards. That's where I want this thing to live, and that's why I wanted that 10 magnification. With this 16 one, with the PLX, I'm thinking that this might actually stay on the 16-inch because it's just so light and nibble. This is almost like an AR with a red dot on it, and you know, you got the capability, right? You know, because it has that you know, that M8 Raptor. You got a lot of features. You got a lot of information in the scope for shooting out at distance. Okay, so, and I mentioned this before. You know, I'm a big fan. Like, my primary is red dot with a magnifier behind it. If I'm going to go up to an LPVO, right? Because there's no question that red dot way easier. You know, get on target. That is way easier. Okay. You know, I could hold this upside down, man, like this, sideways. You know, hold it up like this, right? I can still get on target. Okay. So, no question that the red dot is better. Nice thing about putting a magnifier behind this is that magnifier goes on and off. I don't need the extra weight on here, or at night or something, it comes off. I don't need the magnifier there. So if I'm going to put an LPVO, that basically I'm adding about 1.5 pounds to the top of the gun, I want more than just magnification, okay? I want more than just a basic bullet drop. I want range estimating, you know, I want wind holds, move, you know, I want to be able to lead targets. I want a mill grid so I can self-spot my hits, you know. So I want lots of extra features for the 1.5 pounds that's going on top of the rifle. Okay. So yeah, like I said, I love this Ruger MPR, and this rail over here is great. Like, if you want to add stuff here, like, you know, like I like the way I normally set up. I got a pistol light up here, I got magnifier back here, and I got backup sights here. They work decent. Flip up sights work decent here out to 100 yards. And down the road, if I ever needed to move them, I can move them. This is a good storage place for them on the gun, where in an emergency situation, you can flip them up and use them, or at your convenience, you can move them around on the gun, okay? So this Ruger MPR having rail all the way across the top, I don't know, like I might at some point reconfigure this in such a way that I'm actually making more use out of this rail section that's up here. Now, one of the interesting things worth mentioning, because initially I had that scope and mount on the Ruger MPR, and I got a 0, okay? So then I moved it from the Ruger MPR to the Palmetto, okay? And it's like all of a sudden I'm shooting like way to the right, and I'm like, why am I shooting so far to the right? I shouldn't. I mean, the adjustment shouldn't be that much. I mean, first of all, these are both 18-inch barrels. The adjustment shouldn't be that much. So I took a closer look at it. I removed the scope, and what had happened is, again, because the scope has to go as far forward as possible, right, without going on the rail section here. So so basically it bolts onto the rail here, but a little bit of it was actually, like, the very tip, the very front end here was actually going on to the front rail here. And what had happened is the front rail here, right, the handguard was like ever so slightly canted, a really tiny. So like when I removed this and I was like running my hand here, like, yeah, I could feel it stick out a little bit. Now Palmetto actually does have an anti-twist type of thing here, so that it actually inserts, so it won't rotate. I think you call it anti-rotational handguard or whatever. But there's still a little bit of wiggle room, okay? So it was just ever so slightly off. So what I did is I loosened up the screws here. There's 3 Allen screws here. There's one on the other side that's a little bit small. I loosened those up. I put the mount on it, right, with this somewhat loose, you know, with the screws loose, so that they'll give and they'll have a little bit of flex. I tightened up the mount on here, and then once this was in position, then I went back and tightened up these screws over here, and then, you know, basically my shift was like there was like almost no shift as I went from one rifle to the other rifle. I mean, there was a tiny little shift, but like not much. I don't remember exactly how much. Maybe it was off like maybe half an inch or something. But yeah, be aware of that. That if you're shooting like way off to the side or something, because you're going to end up having to push this as far forward as possible in order to get that eye relief, right? Because if you're too close, or if you're too close, you see shadow. If you're too far, you see shadow. A lot of people, they actually don't have enough space here. So what they end up doing is bringing the scope back and like extending this all the way. So that's kind of goofy. So I want to try and push this forward up, and then this way I can have my stock here in my normal position, and I can come up and I can not see shadow. Okay, so anyway, that's something for you guys to be aware of. The front of your mount here might actually go a little bit into the handguard rail here, and if the handguard rail is ever so slightly off, it's going to affect your zero. It's going to push you left or right a lot. Okay, so just loosen this up over here, loosen up your handguard, mount your rail, tighten it, then go back and tighten these screws and put some blue Loctite on these, right? Because they don't lock, like Palmetto doesn't Loctite it. Most companies don't Loctite it, and you don't want these to start coming loose over time. So get a little bit of Loctite on there, and then you should never have to remove this again. So anyway, that is today's story. I thought it would be interesting to share with you guys why this 1 to 10 GLX from Primary Arms ended up going on this Palmetto 223 Wild, and it's because of the handguard. Okay, because especially if you got an LPVO on here, you're not going to be mounting shit over here. So and plus it's thin. Like when I grab this is nice and thin because my thumb can come over the top. Okay, just come right over the top here. Okay, and again, practice those exercises where you're like standing like this, turn around like this, get on target, go back the other way. All right, this way you know what the limitations are of your scope, what you can do it, how far out of position can you be, and be able to get on target. So, drop some comments below. I'm going to also include a Primary Arms playlist below in the comments and description, so you can go through all the videos. I've already done like a number of videos on all of these scopes that you guys should check out. I'll talk to you soon.